Well, welcome everyone. Good to see Unitech here now and EIT. Yeah. We've got our last webinar for the year for the NPF 14 LMD project, and this morning our guest speaker is Dr OCarol, who has done her PhD on social media and Maori learners, and Dee's going to speak to us about some of those issues today, which will be fantastic. So I'm going to hand over to Dee. Dee will do a presentation about 15-20 minutes, and then she'll open it up to questions. So if the remote people would like to just mute your microphone until question time, that would be great. Thanks.
Cool. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Firstly, tēnā koutou katoa. I'd like to acknowledge the people in the room for coming and having a listen to this NPF 14 LMD presentation. It's really just a bit of a catch up on what we're trying to achieve in the project in regards to Māori learners. So I acknowledge our beautiful babies who are in the room today. We have two twins who are the beautiful daughters of one of our colleagues here at CFLAT, and also our guest Alison. Tēnā kōrua, o tia tēnā tātou katoa. Okay, so ko wai aho, tuatahi ka mihi ake rā kia koutou, kei te ipurangi me ki, koutou kei ngā takiwā, kei te matua Māui, kei tāmaki anō hoki, Catherine kōrua ko James, tēnā kōrua, o tia koutou katoa, kei te haere tonu mai. Ko wai tēnei, he uri tēnei no Taranaki, ko te Aotearoa, ko Ngā Ruahine, ko Ngāti Ruanui o Kuiwi, ko Dr OCarol tōku ingoa. So I just want to really get started because I know we're a little bit late. Apologies for that. It wouldn't be a webinar without some sort of technical difficulties. So I am a researcher here at CFLAT and have been asked to work on the ACO project. Obviously for yourselves, Catherine and James, you know my role and you know also the stuff that I've been working on. But for those who do get to watch the webinar later on, I'm one of the researchers on the coordinating team here at AUT. So I'll talk a little bit about the project, and then I will talk about specifically the Māori learner strand within this kaupapa. So the project itself it hopes to address gaps and questions by implementing and observing the benefits and challenges of using mobile devices for enhanced learning and institutional change. We're wanting to look at that across disciplines, and we are fortunate to have brought on 5 other institutions, including ourselves, AUT, or 6, including ourselves. So the aim really is to generate a range of practical strategies for students and teachers to utilize the affordances of mobile devices for pedagogical transformation, but also, more importantly, to enhance the learner experience. So specifically for this project, as you can see just down the left there, there's 7 main questions that are driving this research project, and I'm looking, assisting in looking at the 7th question, which are: what are the benefits and challenges for Māori learners? How can traditional Māori pedagogies be better integrated into learning and teaching, and what roles can mobile devices and social media play in these pedagogies? Largely we're going to be doing a national survey that's going to roll out across the 6 institutions. We're also going to run some focus groups and case studies. So progress to date for the project, we have collectively hit milestones 1 and 2, but in terms of the Māori learner focus, progress to date has been quite slow. But we've managed to collate a whole lot of literature regarding Māori pedagogies and Māori learners. That literature is currently being reviewed into a written literature report. I've also had the opportunity to go out to Massey University, University of Auckland and Otago Polytech to give the same presentation and to inform our practitioners and coordinators about the Māori learner focus within the project. And what we're trying to achieve and understand in this research. So that's sort of what our project structure looks like, and the various practitioners and coordinators across the 6 institutions. It's a huge machine, really. And as you can see, the top red stream or theme across all of the 6 institutions is a focus on Māori learners, and that was quite important for Ako Aotearoa to see that we were addressing that area. Okay, so Māori learners, what do we want to understand in this research project? It's really important that we look at the successes and challenges that Māori learners are faced with at tertiary level. So what are some of those success factors? What do those potentially look like? That might look like whānau, hapu and iwi support. It might look like mentoring and guidance. It might also look like high-level support from iwi between the iwi, the mana whenua iwi of that area and the institution within the same region, and how that relationship is nurtured. It could also look like an iwi-based induction into the institution. So how are Māori learners being brought into the institution, and how are iwi playing a role in that induction? It could also look like financial support, student services, academic and social. But I think importantly, relationships is a big key part of the success factor, and certainly the literature is saying that. And the relationships, which includes teacher and student, but also student and student, which is that tuakana taina relationship. But also environments. How are environments impacting on the success of our Māori learners within tertiary education? And those environments could be physical, could be within the classroom setting, could be within the forest, on the moana, in a wharenui. So what are the teaching environments looking like, and how are these contributing to the success of that Māori learner? But also, what are the challenges? What are the challenges that our Māori learners are faced with? Again, those could include financial pressures, whānau, hapu and iwi commitments is always a big challenge for Māori learners, work commitments, but also being able to ask for help. How is that sort of relationship between the student and teacher, and enabling them as learners to come forward and ask for help when needed. Also, we want to look at access. How many Māori are accessing devices? How many are using social media and the internet? The latest internet project said 86% of all Māori have access to the internet, and 3/4 of those are accessing and utilising social media. So we've got really high numbers of Māori using these new technologies. But how are they accessing these sites? Is it through mobile devices? Is it through a phone, an iPad, and a computer, a home computer, school computer, or public library? So we're wanting to find out those sorts of things around access, but also how are they using social media and their mobile devices? Are they using it in the classroom, or are they using them for social purposes, just to keep connected to friends and family? So we're wanting to find that all out as well, and we're doing that through our national data survey. We also would like to find out about Māori learners' preferred teaching styles. So how do Māori learners learn best? What environments are most conducive for their learning experience to be positive and successful? The literature, and certainly anecdotally, Māori learners particularly learn best by doing, learn best through relationships, and those relationships must be strong to enable that learner to really engage with the content. So we'd like to explore some of those areas as well. So largely we're looking at how are Māori learners using mobile devices and social media within learning environments. We're also wanting to explore this idea of Māori pedagogies. And firstly, we need to consider kaupapa Māori and tikanga Māori, and how kaupapa Māori, which would be a perspective, and how kaupapa Māori and Māori values play a role within teaching pedagogy and teaching practices. So this idea of ako comes into play here, and ako was traditionally considered not just a practice of teaching and learning, but it's a holistic concept that incorporates ways of knowing, knowledge systems, beliefs, values, and practices, and are strongly connected and related to values such as whanaungatanga, kaitiakitanga, manaakitanga, and all of these values are being implemented and engaged with within the classroom setting. So, more contemporary, this traditional style of ako has been implemented within the kohanga reo, within kura kaupapa, but also within whare wānanga. So these three particular institutions, learning institutions, have incorporated the concept and framework of ako. And so what I'm trying to do within the literature is look at how those institutions are incorporating the framework, and how we can better incorporate ako as a concept and a framework within Western institutions. But it's also about understanding that this concept of ako, as said, is holistic, and rather than picking and choosing various strategies or practices to enable yourself to, as a practitioner, to better engage with Māori learners, this is an entire values base and an entire philosophy that underpins this concept of ako and teaching and learning practices. So I'm trying to explore that within the literature, and this is hopefully going to inform a new framework that we're going to propose from this project. So we're wanting to look at current practices and understand the ways in which Māori values-based pedagogy can be interwoven to transform both practice and learner experience. We're also wanting to acknowledge the current work that all of the practitioners across our institutions are already engaged with. And many people who I've already spoken to within our project are engaging with these practices and engaging with these ideals of whanaungatanga, of manaakitanga, of kaitiakitanga, and that's already embedded within their practice. So within this project, we're wanting to look at how we can strengthen those practices for our coordinators and for our practitioners. So potential areas that we can explore would be engagement with obviously a blended learning approach, utilising the technology for e-learning, but also ensuring that kanohi to kanohi or face-to-face is continued throughout that teaching and learning process. The role of tikanga Māori, Māori values and Māori protocols and practices, how these are incorporated into one's course, and that could also include pohiri. Again, I was talking about induction and bringing new learners into the classroom and how that's done with an iwi involvement, but also whānau as well. And also the environments and how we can consider the classroom as the entire environment and not just the classroom where there's four walls and a teacher standing at the front and everyone just listens and that sort of regurgitation occurs. So we're sort of looking at all of those areas. Largely we're wanting to look at how pedagogies, Māori pedagogies, can include or interweave mobile devices and social media as technologies to enhance better outcomes for our learners. So as a bit of an example, here at AUT we've had one of our staff within the Faculty of Health, who's a lecturer for Māori Health, participate as one of our case studies. And her project was about a year, and her ideas for transforming her practice was to innovate the learning space. So she removed a lot of the classes that she took within the classroom, within a lecture theatre, and took those to the marae. So we have a marae here at AUT, and they were taught on the weekends as sort of almost like a block, more intense day course, where people would come into the marae, spend time at the marae, eat, share meals, and that whole process and some symbolism of the wharenui contributed to ideals and concepts of Māori health. She also broadened the course content to include a holistic approach to health and well-being. So discussions around Te Tiriti o Waitangi, the Treaty of Waitangi as well, identity, and all of these aspects that contribute to one's health is not just about the physical side of health. And so that course content was completely sort of broadened to bring in those other ideals and concepts that relate to Māori health and well-being. But she also wanted to enable her students to have connection online, and so she created a Google Plus community, but ensured that there was both kanohi ki te kanohi, face-to-face, and online learning experiences for their learners, and it enabled them to, if they weren't able to get to a lecture, they were still able to access the content for the course, but that was the kanohi ki te kanohi lectures were attendance-based, so it was important for people to show up physically. She also utilized ebooks as her course outlines, but also is wanting the students to use an ebook structure to submit assignments and assessments. And also she has been recording a number of Māori experts within Māori Health and allowing people to access these videos of their lectures within the Google community. So bringing that expertise and that knowledge to the online community is actually quite innovative, and often I guess in a traditional sense of ako, that wouldn't necessarily happen. You're either there or you're not, and if you're not able to access those experts face to face, unfortunately you miss out. So that's again trying to transform her practice and enabling more participation and access by her students and her learners. So ideally we want to propose a new framework from this research. Again, this is just one sort of thread across the entire project. There's a number of different foci within the project, and so this is really just one of them. So for this focus, we're wanting to propose a new framework, a teaching and learning framework, that privileges a kaupapa Māori perspective, a Māori philosophy, that is underpinned with tikanga like whanaungatanga, like kaitiakitanga, like manaakitanga, like aroha, but also that also privileges the use of technology, the use of Google Communities, iPads, mobile devices, iPhones, smartphones, all of the above. So we wanted to see what that would look like and how that concept of ako that I spoke about earlier, that traditional concept of ako, can continue to be present within the new framework. I don't know what's happening up there. Reconnect to more one. It's not there. Technology.
Okay. We're still working remotely, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So for this framework, we would like it to be applicable across all disciplines. We also want it to be applicable to all learners, not just Māori learners, and used by or utilised by all practitioners. So often when people hear this idea of Māori pedagogy, Māori learners, there could be sort of the thought that maybe that's just restricted for Māori lecturers. Well, no, that's not the case, and certainly in my trips around Massey, Otago, and also the University of Auckland, there is a real push and a real interest by the practitioners within our project to want to engage better with a kaupapa Māori sort of framework around their pedagogy and to strengthen and improve their current practice, which is already doing really great stuff. But there's always ways that we can improve that and provide a really strong kaupapa Māori base to that. So we're wanting it to be applicable to all of our disciplines, but also to all of our learners and practitioners. And we'd like to maybe pilot this framework within the project maybe in the second half of next year. So we're just sort of working through what that framework is going to look like for now. Okay, so this is really the goal. This goal is to, oh, should I be doing that? Maybe not. Yep. Is the beautiful maunga you see, the beautiful mountain is Rangitoto in Tāmaki here in Auckland. At the top of that mountain is a group of students, and they've just graduated. They have their regalia on, they have their korowai, their cloaks, and it's an amazing feeling, having been there myself. So the slow and steady rise of that mountain can often present slippery slopes. That's the obstacles that our students face within their journey at tertiary level. But what we're trying to do as practitioners is enhance their learner experiences so that they get to the top of that maunga, to that mountain. And we're trying to advocate for successful outcomes for our learners. So this whakatauki, or this proverb here, whāia te kahurangi ki te tuahu koe, me he maunga teitei. It really says to strive, you must strive for the highest of the pinnacles, and if you shall fall or if you shall give up, let it only be to the loftiest of mountains. In other words, never ever give up, because with the practitioners doing what we can do, and also our learners, we can get them to the top of that mountain. So that's really the goal at tertiary level that I think it's safe to say is sort of the goal and the inspiration for all of us as practitioners and lecturers. So lastly, next year, what does next year hold for us? Well, we're hoping to give the project access to the shared library. Again, we've got a whole lot of literature around Māori pedagogies and learners, but also just general literature that looks at mobile devices and learning that we want to share with our project. As I said earlier, we're reviewing the literature, and we'll be proposing a literature review and report, and also the framework. I would really want to continue the relationships that I've already made with our practitioners and coordinators, and work closely and support our network of practitioners across the 6 institutions. And as you all know, next year the survey and the focus groups will be rolled out next year as well. And I've also identified a number of case studies that I can look at with practitioners from across the universities, across the institutions, who are keen to be part of the sort of Māori learner, Māori pedagogy focus within our project. So that's really it from me. Thank you very much for our people in the room and our people who hopefully are still there in Google+. I have no idea if I'm talking to nobody here, but we can take some questions if we have a little bit of time, maybe 5 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dee. So remote people, if you'd like to unmute your microphones, and then you can ask Dee some questions. Dee's got her headphones in. Do you want to just turn off your screen sharing, Dee, so they can see you?
Hang on, I'll try and do that. Oh, I'm not even in the call. Where am I? Oh, yeah, gotcha.
Great, cool, okay. And I'll just mute my microphone.
Hi Dee, how are you? Excuse my croaking. Hi everyone at EIT and Unitech. We've been talking about, after your visit, Dee, we're very interested in, learning more about how to incorporate Māori pedagogies into our part of the project. And we've been talking about how we could do that, and probably wanting some ideas. We're thinking about actually incorporating Kaupapa Māori into our actual community of practice meetings, and then that flow on into the actual courses, and then for our students who are learning to be teachers, the flow on into their courses. So what would be some really good practical things that we could implement in our community of practice, would you say?
I guess, as I was saying earlier, ako is underpinned with Kaupapa Māori, and Kaupapa Māori is a philosophy. It is a values base. It is a framework, and so by implementing Kaupapa Māori as a framework, you then begin to, I guess, the strategies of the practicalities can be extracted from that, or they can be drawn out of Kaupapa Māori. So Kaupapa Māori largely is these sort of concepts or ideals that I talked about earlier. So whanaungatanga talks about relationships, and relationships in its holistic way, in terms of how are practitioners engaging with their students, how are they creating an environment in which the student feels comfortable to be there, feels comfortable to be able to talk and ask questions and interact with that person. And often that relationship is sort of on par with the practitioner. There's very, sometimes, I guess, in traditional Māori society, there has been sort of a hierarchical structure to relationships. But certainly within the classroom, that relationship needs to be quite on par with each other, and understanding also that the teacher is there to learn as well. The teacher is not just the holder of all of the knowledge. They have some knowledge and they have some things to share, but also acknowledging that the learner comes with a whole lot of experience and a whole lot of knowledge as well to share as well. And so how is that relationship fostered to enable the learner and the teacher to learn from each other? Also, the relationships around whanaungatanga is tuakana teina, and trying to incorporate a tuakana teina, which just translates to be older brother, older sibling, younger sibling. So how does this notion of tuakana teina apply to students through helping each other. And I mean, that works really well. It's a framework that is incorporated within a number of different schools and is really quite prominent within the literature. So I can share some of that with you when we share the library next year. Manaakitanga, how do we look after each other? How do we treat each other like a family, really? And I can certainly say within all of the contexts that I've experienced learning and teaching, that sort of creating that space where people feel like you're a whānau is actually really key to enabling your students to feel like they're part of something, a part of a community. If they feel that they belong somewhere, well then they're going to be more engaged, be more interested, and be more committed to the kaupapa, to what you're trying to achieve. So yeah, happy to share some of the literature. In terms of practical strategies, there's a number of ACO projects that have looked at that already, and again I can share that with you. Just as an example, how you bring your learners into the classroom for the first class has been talked about quite a bit in the literature, and certainly experienced on my behalf, almost as if it's a kōhiri process. Less formal, obviously, but that sort of kōhiri process has been incorporated to enable students to feel like they are being welcomed into the classroom, welcomed into this new space. You're meeting new people, strangers who you've never met before, through the teacher, through your own peers. And how are we able to incorporate that into our practice? And that whanaungatanga, that relationship, introducing everyone before the class starts is always a really key part of whanaungatanga, of relationship building. More often than not, I've gone to classes where we've just sat next to strangers and never ever talked to each other, never really made a connection to anybody. And so really for Māori learners, but I think for all learners, it's important to have that connection to others, especially to your lecturer and to your peers. So yeah, we can share some more of that knowledge and literature with you.
Thanks very much, Maria.
Hey, Dee, I was just wondering, have we, I think after having this as kind of a kickoff, it'll be really good to continue conversation. Are you thinking that Google Plus will work well for that? That maybe even we have, I don't know if we actually need a separate category or anything to keep it clean, but it'd be really good if people could start sharing a bit more of what their thoughts are on this. And what do you think about that?
Yeah, it sounds great. I mean, I'm still really keen to, especially for you guys here in Auckland, to come over and to meet up. And saying that it's very hard with everyone being so busy, but definitely I think we can utilise the community and its affordances that we're already seeing now. So yeah, I think that's a great idea, especially because I know that a lot of people have some concerns or some questions, or want to find out a little bit more about maybe what they're doing already or what they could be doing more of. And so that could be a nice space for us to sort of have a discussion. And it's certainly not about kind of me coming in and saying, well, yeah, this is what I think, but all of us contributing and sharing our experiences and contributing to that conversation would be really cool.
Yeah, because I think there's loads of other, great ideas floating around the community. It's a pretty big community now, but we just simply can't physically get together very often. So I'm hoping that can pick up a bit of traction.
Yeah, great. Happy to participate in that, and maybe we can kind of kick it off early next year.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we'll set up an actual category in Google Plus for discussions on Marapaka pedagogy. I think that's a good idea, James. Do we have any other questions?
Or in the room? Yeah. Those who are remote, if you do have any questions or anything, Catherine, Adrian, and James have my email, or I think you have my Twitter handle. Oh no, the hashtag. Yeah, you have the hashtag. So I'm happy to respond to you. We just have something else that's happening now, but yeah, we can keep these conversations going, and certainly not the end of it. This is really, for me, it was really important to get this kaupapa out to you guys. I wanted to do it earlier, especially because we're quite far through the project now. but that this was really important for us to acknowledge and just talk about. And I spoke to a couple of you at Escalite last month, which was really great, but it's really important that we know within the project what the Māori Learner Focus consists of, and how you as practitioners are a part of that as well. Certainly not intending to have more work, but definitely in what you're doing, and no doubt you'll have Māori learners within your courses, and you, I hope, would have some interest in trying to incorporate a kaupapa Māori base into some of your pedagogical practices, and that's really where this part of the project can help and assist you in improving what you already are doing, which is a great job. So thanks for coming along, guys.
Thank you. Great. Thank you, Dee.
Merry Christmas.
Okay, so we'll sign off the broadcast now and just keep an eye on the community. Thanks, guys. See ya.